You check into a hotel expecting comfort, privacy, safety. But what if behind these doors, behind the polished service and smiling receptionists, something sinister is lurking? Hotels hold secrets. Some guests check in and never check out. Some disappear without a trace. Others leave behind something far worse than a bad review. Tonight, we're diving into the darkest hotel horror stories. True cases of mystery, murder, and unexplainable terror. And by the time we're done, you might never want to stay in a hotel again. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because trust me, the stories we uncover on this channel will only get darker. And if you've ever had a creepy hotel experience yourself, share it in the comments below, if you dare. Now, let's check in. Hotels are meant to be temporary escapes, a place where strangers come and go, where lives intersect for fleeting moments. But sometimes those moments leave a lasting mark, and some guests, they never check out. This is the real-life horror story of Elisa Lam, and how her disappearance inside the Cecil Hotel became one of the most chilling mysteries of all time. In January 2013, 21-year-old Elisa Lam set off on a solo adventure from Canada to the United States. She wanted an escape, a break from school, a chance to see the world on her own terms. For weeks, she documented her travels online, sharing glimpses of her journey on social media. She was young, full of curiosity, and completely unaware that she was walking straight into a nightmare. Elisa's travels led her to Los Angeles. She needed a cheap place to stay. That's how she found the Cecil Hotel, a historic building nestled in downtown LA, once grand, now infamous. For decades, the hotel had been linked to murders, suicides, and serial killers. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, once roamed its halls. Jack Unterweger, another notorious killer, stayed there while hunting his victims. It was a place where darkness lingered, a building soaked in tragedy and blood, and Elisa Lam had just checked in. For the first few days, nothing seemed unusual. She explored the city, shopped for books, even called her parents daily, until January 31st. That's when Elisa vanished. She never checked out. She never called home. She was just gone. 2 weeks later, the police released the last known footage of Elisa Lam, the CCTV recording from the hotel elevator, and what it showed sent chills across the world. At first, she seems calm. Then, her movements shift. She peeks outside, looking left, looking right, as if someone is following her. She jumps back in, pressing herself against the wall. Then, she steps out. She moves strangely, her arms flailing, fingers twitching in unnatural gestures. It looks like she's talking to someone, but there's no one there. And then, she walks away. The elevator doors finally close, and Elisa Lam was never seen again. For 2 weeks, her family pleaded for answers. The police searched the hotel, but no sign of Elisa. Then, guests began complaining. The water pressure was low. The water tasted strange. It had a foul smell. That's when a maintenance worker went to the rooftop water tanks, and inside one of them, they found her, floating, her body decomposing in the very water guests had been drinking. The discovery shocked the world, but the questions that followed were even more terrifying. How did she get inside the water tank? The rooftop was locked. The tanks were sealed. There was no easy way in. Why was she acting so strangely in the elevator? Was she on drugs? The autopsy found no trace of substances in her system. Was she murdered? No signs of trauma, no defensive wounds. The official cause of death? Accidental drowning. But nobody believed it. Maybe Elisa had a psychotic break. Maybe she saw something that wasn't there. But some people believe the Cecil Hotel itself had something to do with it. For decades, guests have jumped to their deaths. Serial killers walked these halls. Was Elisa another victim of the hotel's dark past? Or was something else inside that building? Something that made her act that way? Something that called her to the water tank? It's been over a decade since Elisa Lam died, but her story still haunts us. The elevator footage remains unexplained. The Cecil Hotel remains infamous. And Elisa? Her name lives on in whispers. Every time a traveler steps into a hotel hallway, presses the elevator button, and wonders, am I really alone? Or is there something else here? Watching, waiting. Hotels are supposed to be safe, anonymous, forgettable. A place where thousands of people check in and out, leaving no trace behind. But some guests, they never leave. This is the story of Jennifer Fergate, a woman who checked into one of Oslo's most luxurious hotels and vanished into oblivion. It was the afternoon of May 31st, 1995, when she arrived. A striking woman in her late 20s or early 30s, dressed in elegant black clothing. She approached the check-in desk at the Radisson Blu Plaza Hotel, Oslo's tallest and most exclusive hotel at the time. She spoke flawless English with a European accent. Her name, Jennifer Fergate. She provided an address in Belgium, but later it was discovered that the address didn't exist. She mentioned she was traveling with a man named Louis Fergate, but no one ever saw him. She was given room 2805, a luxurious suite on the 28th floor. And from that moment, Jennifer Fergate's life began to disappear. Jennifer's stay was quiet, almost invisible. She had no luggage except for a black leather bag. She paid no deposit, provided no identification, and the hotel staff never asked for a credit card, a glaring oversight in security. For 3 days, she hardly left the room. She ordered only one meal from room service, a small sandwich and a soda. She ignored the hotel cleaning staff. Her TV was left on most of the time, playing in the background. She was there, but it was as if she didn't want to be seen. What was she hiding from? Or more disturbingly, who was she waiting for? By June 3rd, hotel staff became concerned. Jennifer's bill remained unpaid, and she had not been seen for over 24 hours. At 7:50 p.m., a security guard knocked on her door. Silence. He knocked again. Still, no response. Then he heard a muffled sound. A gunshot. The guard immediately backed away. Within minutes, police arrived. When they opened the door, they were met with a scene that made no sense. Jennifer was lying on the bed, her arms neatly folded over her chest, like she had placed herself in a resting position. She had been shot once in the forehead, execution style. Next to her was a 9mm Browning pistol, carefully placed on her chest. Her grip was loose, too loose for a self-inflicted shot. Her hand had no gunpowder residue, a detail that defied the physics of suicide. The bullet had passed cleanly through her skull and into the mattress, but no casing was found in the room. If she shot herself, where was the casing? Who removed it? And why had the gun been carefully wiped down? The entire hotel room felt staged. No ID, no passport, no phone, no wallet. She had been meticulously erased. The labels on all of her clothes, removed. Her toiletries, missing. Her shoes, gone. The only personal items in the room, a black leather bag containing 20 bullets. but no extra clothing, no personal belongings. It was as if someone had deliberately wiped her existence clean. But why? And who? Her body showed no signs of struggle, no bruises, no defensive wounds. Toxicology? Clean. No alcohol, no drugs, no sedatives. The official cause of death? Suicide. But the evidence? Didn't add up. Why would she remove all identification, clean the weapon, and erase all traces of her identity before taking her own life? And most chillingly, if this was a suicide, where was Lois Fergate? Jennifer Fergate was never identified. Her fingerprints and DNA matched no records anywhere in Europe or the US. Her false address in Belgium led nowhere. Even her name was fake. It was as if she had never existed at all. And over 2 decades later, the mystery remains. Was she an intelligence agent? Some believe she was a spy whose cover was blown. Was she an assassination target? Others believe someone staged her death to look like a suicide. Or was she hiding from something? Or someone? We may never know. And Jennifer Fergate's secrets died with her. Inside room 2805, at the Oslo Plaza Hotel, a place where guests come and go, and where some are never meant to leave. Hotels are places of comfort, anonymity, escape. But sometimes a guest checks in and never checks out. This is the story of Marjorie Norval, a woman who walked into the Treasury Hotel in 1938 and was never seen again. Marjorie Norval was no ordinary woman. At 31 years old, she had built a successful life. A public servant with a promising career, well-dressed, well-spoken, and known among Brisbane's elite. She moved in circles that few had access to, rubbing shoulders with politicians, businessmen, and high society figures. But with privilege comes secrets, and Marjorie had many. One of them, a clandestine relationship with a powerful man, George Pollock, a former Speaker of the House. Their connection was whispered about behind closed doors. Some said she was his mistress. Others believed she was his informant, entangled in something far darker. But no one expected that within a week, they would both be dead. It was November 11th, 1938, a warm Friday in Brisbane. Marjorie entered a city bank. She withdrew a large sum of money, a detail that puzzled investigators. Why? Had she been planning an escape, or was she paying someone off? She told friends she was meeting someone later that evening, but she never arrived. Instead, multiple witnesses claimed to have seen her enter the Treasury Hotel. She checked into room 323, signing the registry with a steady hand. She was alone. She had no luggage, no change of clothes, no travel plans, just one bag, one night, and then nothing. For 3 days, no one noticed anything unusual. Room 323 remained undisturbed. The maid never entered. The Do Not Disturb sign hung on the door handle. There was no record of calls from the room. No room service orders, only silence. Then, on November 14th, hotel staff realized something was wrong. Marjorie's bill had not been paid. The front desk called her room. No answer. The maid knocked. Silence. Finally, hotel security was sent to investigate. And when they opened the door, the room was empty. No sign of Marjorie. No clothes, no purse, no documents. Just a faint scent of perfume hanging in the air. Marjorie's disappearance was immediately suspicious. But what happened next turned the case into a legend. Because just 6 days later, on November 20th, George Pollock, the very man rumored to be connected to her, was found dead. A gunshot wound to the head. Suicide. The timing was too perfect. Had Marjorie known something dangerous? Had she been eliminated? Or had Pollock taken his own life out of guilt? Nobody knew. And worse, Marjorie's body was never found. Over the years, theories multiplied. Some believed she had been lured to room 323 under false pretenses, perhaps by a secret lover, an informant, or even Pollock himself. Others speculated that she had been silenced, her body removed before anyone could investigate. And then, there were the ghost stories, because room 323 was never the same. Guests reported unexplainable chills, even during Brisbane's warmest nights. Housekeepers avoided the room, claiming they heard muffled voices when it was empty. Some guests swore they saw a woman in dark clothing standing at the window, looking out over the city. Doors opened on their own, mirrors fogged up with no cause, as if the room itself remembered, as if Marjorie never left. Today, the Treasury Hotel is a luxury destination. Tourists come for the five-star treatment, unaware of the history that lingers in its walls. Most guests sleep soundly, but some wake up to a shadow standing at the foot of their bed. Some hear whispers in the night. Some feel a cold hand brush against their shoulder. And when they turn, no one is there, because if the stories are true, Marjorie Norval never left room 323, and she's still waiting to be found. Hotels are places of comfort and luxury, but sometimes they become places of unanswered questions and lingering spirits, and at the Stanley Hotel, some guests never leave. It was a stormy summer night in 1911 when the event that would haunt room 217 forever took place. A gas leak had gone unnoticed. The air inside the hotel was thick with flammable fumes, and no one realized it. That is, until chambermaid Elizabeth Wilson arrived to light the room's lamps for the evening guests. The instant the flame touched the air, boom. The entire second floor shook as a massive explosion ripped through room 217. The wooden floor collapsed, sending Elizabeth plummeting down into the rooms below. Guests and hotel workers rushed to the scene, expecting the worst. But somehow, Elizabeth survived. Bruised, broken bones, but alive. And though she eventually recovered from her injuries, it's said that a part of her never left the hotel. Even in death, she remained, and room 217 has never been the same since. The years passed, but strange occurrences in room 217 never stopped. Guests began reporting bizarre, unexplained phenomena. Suitcases unpacked on their own. Shoes lined up neatly by the door overnight. Lights flickering without reason. The unmistakable feeling of someone in the room, even when it was empty. And then, the most unsettling part. The door. Guests would lock the door before going to sleep, only to wake up in the morning to find it wide open. No signs of forced entry, no staff coming in during the night. Just a silent, invisible force making itself known. Elizabeth Wilson, it seemed, was still taking care of the guests of room 217. Even in the afterlife. By the early 1970s, ghost stories about the Stanley Hotel had spread far beyond Colorado. The place was infamous. But in 1974, a single night in room 217 would change horror history forever. Because that night, Stephen King checked in. The hotel was nearly empty, the perfect setting for a quiet getaway. But from the moment King stepped inside, he felt it. A presence, a darkness, something watching. That night he had a terrifying dream. His young son running through the halls of the hotel, something chasing him. The child screaming as something wrapped around him, tightening its grip. King jerked awake, heart pounding. He got up, lit a cigarette, and sat at the desk inside room 217. and that's when he started to write. That was the night that gave birth to The Shining, one of the most terrifying horror novels ever written. And what inspired it? The real ghosts of the Stanley Hotel. Room 217 may be the most famous haunted room, but it isn't the only one. Throughout the hotel, guests and staff have reported strange activity. The grand staircase. Visitors often hear whispers, and in photographs, shadowy figures appear where no one was standing. The ballroom. A piano plays by itself, and laughter echoes through the empty room, as if a party is still happening from decades past. The fourth floor. Guests hear children giggling in the hallways at night. But when they check, there's no one there. Even the staff, the people who work at the hotel every day, refuse to go into certain areas alone. And some of them have seen things they won't speak of. The Stanley Hotel has hosted thousands of visitors over the years. Some come for the beautiful scenery. Some come because they love The Shining. And some come to see the ghosts for themselves. Some leave with just a good story. Others leave with something they can't explain. A voice calling their name when no one is there. A handprint on the mirror that wasn't there before. A cold breath on the back of their neck when they're alone in their room. And those who stay in room 217, many of them wake up in the middle of the night to find their door standing wide open, as if someone or something just checked in. Hotels are places of comfort, of fleeting stays, of anonymity, but sometimes a guest checks in and never leaves. This is the story of London's most haunted hotel room, and the restless souls who are still waiting inside. The Langham opened its polished doors in 1865, quickly becoming one of London's most prestigious hotels. It was a place of luxury, opulence, and high society, where the richest and most powerful men in England came to dine, drink, and do business. But with great wealth comes great scandal. Over the years, the hotel has been the setting for mystery, death, and despair. And at the center of it all, room 333. For decades, guests who have stayed in room 333 report the same chilling experiences. Some wake up in the dead of night, paralyzed, feeling an unseen presence watching them from the darkness. Others claim to have seen a man dressed in Victorian evening wear, standing at the foot of the bed, staring at them with cold, empty eyes. Then, he slowly fades away, vanishing into the walls like a shadow swallowed by the night. But the most terrifying reports are from those who wake up to find the man standing directly above them, his pale face inches from theirs. Of all the spirits that roam the Langham, one of the most famous is said to be a German prince. His story begins just before the outbreak of World War I. He had checked into room 333, a man of wealth and status. But something was deeply wrong. The war was coming. Rumors swirled that his home country would soon be the enemy. In a moment of desperation, he went to his hotel window and jumped. His body was found broken on the pavement below, his last moments filled with terror and regret. And yet, his spirit never left the room. Guests who stay in room 333 often wake up to see a tall figure standing by the window, gazing out toward the streets of London, as if he is reliving that final moment, trapped forever in the place where his life ended. Another legend tied to room 333 is that of a doctor from the Victorian era. Some say he was a wealthy surgeon, others claim he was a respected medical scholar. But what no one debates is how his story ended. The man had brought his young wife to the Langham. They were newly married, and to outsiders they seemed happy. But behind closed doors, something sinister was happening. One night, after a violent argument, the doctor snapped. He murdered his wife in cold blood, her final screams echoing through the halls. Then, overwhelmed by guilt and madness, he turned the blade on himself. To this day, guests report hearing whispers and sobbing coming from room 333. And some claim to have seen the doctor's reflection in the room's antique mirror. A dark figure standing in the background, watching, waiting. In 1973, a BBC journalist was staying in room 333 while working on a story about the Langham's ghostly history. He had been skeptical, laughing at the old legends, dismissing them as fairy tales. But that night, he changed his mind. At 3 a.m., he awoke to the sensation of movement in the room. When he opened his eyes, he saw a faint glow forming near the bed. Then, right before him, a figure materialized. It was a tall man in Victorian-era clothes, standing still, staring at him with glowing, hollow eyes. Then, the ghost began moving toward him. The journalist leapt from his bed, scrambling to turn on the lamp. The moment the light flicked on, the ghost vanished. The next morning, the journalist checked out immediately. He later told his colleagues, "Something was in that room with me. I don't know what, but I will never go back there again." Despite its luxurious reputation, the Langham is one of the few hotels where even the employees avoid certain rooms. Housekeeping staff hate going into room 333 alone. Some refuse to clean it after dark. Others have reported seeing shadows move across the room, even when they are the only person inside. One staff member recalled how she was making the bed one afternoon when the lights flickered and shut off completely. She thought it was a power outage, until she heard footsteps moving across the carpet behind her. When she turned, no one was there. She dropped her cleaning supplies and ran out of the room, and she never went back. The Langham Hotel remains one of London's most luxurious hotels. Thousands of people stay there every year, unaware of the stories that haunt its walls. Some check in and have a normal stay. Others leave with stories they can't explain. The feeling of cold hands brushing against their skin in the middle of the night. Furniture shifting on its own. The sensation that someone is lying in bed beside them, only to wake up and find the other side empty. And those who dare to stay in room 333, many of them wake up at exactly 3 a.m. to find their door standing wide open, as if someone or something has just stepped inside. Hotels are meant to be places of peace, luxury, and escape. But this one, it is a prison for the dead. This is the real horror story of the Diplomat Hotel and the souls that are still trapped inside. The history of the Diplomat Hotel begins in 1913, when Spanish Dominican priests built it as a retreat house. For decades, it was a sanctuary of peace and devotion. Holy men gathered here to pray, meditate, and seek solace from the outside world. But in 1945, during the final months of World War II, that peace was shattered forever. When Japanese imperial forces arrived in Baguio, they seized the Dominican retreat house, turning it into a military garrison. What happened inside after that? No one knows the full truth, but the stories are horrifying. The priests and nuns who lived here were captured, imprisoned within the very walls they once prayed in. Many were tortured for information, their cries echoing through the halls. Some were executed in the chapel, their blood staining the floors. Others were beheaded, their bodies thrown into the courtyard like discarded waste. No burial, no last rites, just death and silence. And silence, they say, is never truly empty. Even now, visitors report hearing those same cries carried by the wind. Some say they see figures in long robes walking aimlessly, only to realize they have no heads. For years, the ruins of the Dominican retreat remained abandoned, too tainted by its past to be touched. But in the 1970s, businessman Antonio Agpaua, a faith healer, decided to transform the structure into a luxury hotel. The Diplomat Hotel was born. At first, it seemed like a fresh start, but almost immediately something was wrong. Construction workers refused to work late. They claimed to hear whispers, footsteps, and voices calling their names when no one was around. Doors refused to stay shut. Guests would lock them, only to wake up and find them standing wide open. The sound of running water filled the halls, except the plumbing wasn't working. Guests and employees alike felt uneasy, like something was watching them. And then, Antonio Agpaua died. His death sealed the fate of the hotel. The business collapsed. The guests left, and the building was abandoned once again. But the spirits remained. Today, the ruins of the Diplomat Hotel are one of the most haunted locations in the Philippines. Tourists and paranormal investigators visit the site, searching for evidence of the dead. And the reports are terrifying. The headless spirits. Many visitors claim to have seen shadowy, headless figures walking slowly through the corridors. Some are dressed as priests, others as nuns. They seem lost, wandering, as if looking for something or someone. The weeping woman, a disembodied voice, a woman sobbing. The sound grows louder and closer, until it stops right behind you. The midnight bell. Though there is no working bell inside the ruins, people report hearing it chime at midnight, echoing over the hill. A reminder of the time when this place was a holy retreat, before it became a place of death. The children who were never there. Some visitors claim they have heard laughter, tiny footsteps running across the stone floors. But when they search, the place is empty. Are these spirits trapped? Or are they warning visitors to leave before it's too late? The Diplomat Hotel is no longer a hotel. It is a ruin, a husk of a building left to rot on the hill. But that hasn't stopped people from entering, exploring, and investigating. And some of them have left with more than just a story. A cold breath on their neck, a shadow moving against the walls, even though no one else is there. A touch on their shoulder, only to turn and find no one standing behind them. And those who visit after dark, many claim they leave with the same nightmare. A dream of being trapped inside the ruins. A dream of dark figures surrounding them. And the feeling of something cold pressing against their throat, right where a head would be severed. The Diplomat Hotel is open to visitors. Anyone can go inside. But those who do often come out different. Some report feeling drained, weak, exhausted, as if something has taken their energy. Some claim they can't sleep for days, haunted by visions of the hotel at night. And some say that after their visit, they feel a presence following them home, watching, waiting. Maybe you're safe. Maybe the spirits of the Diplomat Hotel only linger inside its walls. Or maybe they're looking for a way out, and the next visitor to step inside might be the one to bring them home. The world is filled with grand hotels, places built for luxury, for escape, for peace. But some of them, they hold more than just memories. They hold whispers, shadows, echoes of lives that never truly left. From the chilling mysteries of room 217 at the Stanley Hotel, to the restless spirits of the Langham's room 333, and the tortured souls wandering the ruins of the Diplomat Hotel, each of these places carries something with them. Something waiting. Do you believe these stories? Or are they just the creations of overactive minds, desperate to explain the unexplainable? Maybe you'll find out for yourself, if you ever decide to check in. Just be sure to leave the light on. If you enjoyed this journey through some of the most haunted hotels in the world, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into the world of the unexplained. Have you ever had a paranormal experience in a hotel? Do you believe spirits can truly linger in places touched by tragedy? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one. Until next time, sleep tight.